Thanks for being a part of In the Trenches with Dave Lapham, brought to you by First Star Logistics, as always, coming to you from our outstanding studios, and I mean outstanding. And that title applies to our guest, Bruce Kozerski, outstanding offensive lineman for the Cincinnati Bengals for 12 seasons. Could play any position in the offensive line, predominantly center, because he's very, very intelligent. Quarterback of the offensive line. Did a great job up front and performed very, very well for the Bengals. Pro Bowl caliber player, in my opinion. I thought there were years where he should have been elected to the Pro Bowl. Now teaching and coaching football at Holy Cross over in Northern Kentucky. But we're going to talk to Koz about the Cincinnati Bengals season, about the offensive line play, about the Super Bowl matchup with the Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles. Talking football with Bruce Kozerski. Always learn something, because Koz is a knowledgeable football man. You're going to like what he has to say. Thanks for being part of In the Trenches with Dave Lapham, brought to you by First Star Logistics, as always, coming from our outstanding studios. And we have a guest to match. We're talking outstanding. We're talking the most versatile offensive lineman the Cincinnati Bengals have ever had. We're talking the most intelligent offensive lineman the Cincinnati Bengals have ever had. We're talking Bruce Kozerski. And Koz, are you at Holy Cross High School right now where you teach?
I am. I'm in my classroom.
Yeah. Okay. Physics, calculus, and pre-calculus.
That's correct.
Oh my gosh, Koz, man.
I'll have 3 AP classes next year. Pre-calculus, calculus, and physics AP.
How about that? Plus the fact that you are a state champion high school football coach at Holy Cross. You won the big state championship there. That's a heck of a.
We had a good run in 2011, and then we had another good run in 2016. And so it's coming around again. It's we're hoping in the next few years we'll get back and do the very similar thing.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Congratulations on all that. And as we know, Pro Bowl caliber center, in my opinion, for many years with the Cincinnati Bengals, as well as other positions he could play in the offensive line, and had the intelligence and the physical capacity to do all that. A quick question about this football team that you watched this year for the Cincinnati Bengals. What did you like most about this edition of the Cincinnati Bengals?
I like most. I was disappointed in the way the season started, but when you can figure in all of the factors with the 3 new offensive linemen coming in cold, a rookie starting at left guard, and a quarterback coming off of an appendectomy, it was encouraging that it only took 2 weeks to get started, and by the 3rd week, 4th week, they had it rolling, and it was a really fun season to watch. I think if they had stayed healthy, I certainly think they'd still be playing. If they haven't lost 3 offensive linemen, I think they'd still be playing. And, they did some of that without Jamar Chase for 4 weeks. They did some of that without T. Higgins for a few weeks. And so they had very quality backup guys that stepped in and filled the role. It became a next man up. And, you saw a lot of that in the Buffalo game. Yep. When those 3 linemen played. They played exceptionally well. Didn't work out so well the next week. Different animal. Defensively, very, very exciting. I mean, that group of guys, they never quit. They always find a way to make plays and keep it close. Give their coordinators a real pat on the back.
No question. I mean, it didn't really have look at the number of turnovers. It wasn't necessarily the number, but it was when. It was when you had to have a takeaway, they would come up with the son of a gun, whether it be in the 4th quarter, whether it be in the red zone. I mean, it's when their backs were against the wall, they'd come up with the big play. They'd come up with the takeaway defensively. It was amazing. I mean, it wasn't just once. It was quite a few times, man.
The fumble on Kelsey.
Yeah.
In the regular season game, huge.
Yep.
Just huge. The fumble by and 98-yard kickoff return or fumble return by Hubbard. That's the kind of play that kind of carried the season.
Yeah. The Patriots going in to score, they fumble in the red zone. And save that football game. And over and over and over again, it became, they didn't give up a touchdown in the 4th quarter of the first 7 games of the season. they had a takeaway in like 10 straight fourth quarters. Or, I mean, crazy stuff like that. It was like watching that defensive football team. They were in such sync. You know, it's like when an offensive line is in total sync, it's like watching 300 plus pound June Taylor dancers. You know, it's all choreographed. That defense looked choreographed. I mean, it was like they were on a string, man. You know, it was just they were in step.
You know, I think Coach Anarumo had a really good deal. He figured out real early that his red zone defense was better than being up the field, and so he played for the short field. He got in that short field situation. He gave up field goals, didn't give up touchdowns, and kept us in a lot of those football games. And I think that says a lot for his ability to, again, recognize what he has. You know, to have the ability to, you don't have the greatest pass rush, but you have a pass rush that's deceiving in the red zone because you can drop 8, bring people from different positions. And, you know, I think that was just a tremendous asset. Again, knowing how good you could be in the red zone is amazing.
When you're in the huddle, you know, with a quarterback, we were both privileged to be in the huddle with guys that had MVP seasons. Mine was Super Bowl 16, 1981-82 season with Kenny Emerson, best team I ever played with. And in the huddle, it was just special. It was different. Yeah. When you were in the huddle with Boomer in 88-89 Super Bowl 23 season when he won MVP, what was it like in the huddle with Boomer Esiason?
Simple expectations. You know, we called a play and we had a couple choices at the line of scrimmage, but we knew the play that was called had a better than average chance of being successful. And I don't mean, you know, for 3 or 4, I mean for 10 or 15. And, you know, we had tremendous group up front with Anthony and Max Montoya and Joe Walter and Bruce Reimers, a tremendous group of skilled people. You know, and Sam just called a great game. Bruce Kozerski called a great game, and Boomer just executed it. You know, we were on the same page, and like I said, it was easy. It was easy.
That's
what it looked like anyway, didn't it?
Yeah, I'm telling you, it looked easy, and then you know you got something cooking when you know it's not complicated. Let's just go out. We're better than they are. Let's go out and just execute and make sure we get it done at a high level.
You can run the ball, and they know you're running the ball. You could do by anything you want.
Yep, that's exactly right. Exactly right. And you guys did. Talk about, you know, you hear that phrase, impose the will. You know, I want to impose my will on. You guys imposed your will on opponents on a weekly basis with that running game. And then that play action game off that running game, it's like good night, Irene, man.
I go back to 2 ball games, the Buffalo game. Buffalo game, last game of the regular season. And when we had 8 minutes to go, got the ball and they never saw it again, just right down the field. And and then the playoff game against Seattle, we ran the ball for 240, and they knew we were going to run the ball. They knew it. You know, Joe Nash would say, "Stop running the ball, guys. Stop running the ball." You know, and he was the one that kept getting hurt. Remember, every third down, he'd come up lane.
Oh yeah, yeah. He would. You guys were going no huddle. You guys were up tempo, and he was faking hamstrings.
Every third down, they had him taking a knee.
Yeah, he had so many injuries they couldn't keep track of them, you know, and none of them got him off the field. It was crazy.
That trick ankle.
Yeah, exactly. That was classic, and that's what they got going now. You know, number 9, Joe Burrow. He's an MVP caliber player, and they've won back-to-back division titles, and they've gone to the AFC Championship back-to-back years and go to the Super Bowl one of those years. I mean, they have that caliber of quarterback, and when you've got that, you know you got it, and you certainly don't want to lose it. That's for sure.
Well, he makes it look easy. You know, he makes it look easy, and you know, when he has time, there's nobody that can do it the way he can. You know, and he's even shown flashes of brilliance in the running game, especially the second half of the season. He'd get out of the pocket and pick up a first and on a 3rd and 15, he gets 16. You know. Right. Recognition of that man coverage. Those linebackers turn their back to you and run. That middle's wide open. That's part of his recognition.
Right. Yeah, honestly, that the AFC Championship opportunity out in Kansas City, they were within a whisker. I mean, they lose 5 games on the season. 4 of the losses are by a field goal. Then up in Cleveland, you know, have the nightmare up there on Monday Night Football. But that was the worst game of the year for the team. But I mean, literally, they're in every single football game up until the gun, and just I don't think that's going to go away. I think that competitive spirit is something that, I mean, the team is never the same from one year to the next. It's like, personnel is going to change. And now you're in the coaching world, Cos. I mean, Zach Taylor had the same coordinators, his offensive, defensive, and special teams coordinator for all 4 years of his head coaching stint at this point in time. Lou Anarumo is a finalist for the Arizona Cardinals job. Brian Callahan looks like he's a finalist with the Indianapolis Colts. Dan Pitcher is interviewing in person down at Tampa Bay for offensive coordinator job down there. It's like they not only want to get your players as part of that, they want to raid the coaching staff when you've had success. Everybody wants a piece of that success. How tough is it to maintain that consistency and continuity?
Well, you get a recognition of talent. You put those guys on the staff, and the staff got infinitely better. Therefore, the team started to function better. A lot of it's your game preparation and what you know about your opponents. That comes from the expertise of your coaching staff. So it's natural that on a winning team, you're going to get guys being recruited to coach other football teams. So we got to find replacements. The difference is we know what we have physically to go on the field, right? Those guys that are playing have to play up to their expectations and rely on the knowledge that they've learned. These guys are going to be gone. But I remember Jim McKnight left Cincinnati, and what he left here in Cincinnati was Anthony Munoz and Bruce Kozerski and Bruce Reimers. He left Joe Walter here. He left all those guys with all of his year. I think Anthony was gone already. He left all those guys with all of his knowledge and all of his years' experience. And we can rely on that, our training. We can rely on how we view the ball game as it's progressing. We can make sudden changes in the middle of a series instead of waiting to get onto the bench or even to wait till halftime. We can make recommendations. Our issue after Sam left was that we got Dave Shula, and that didn't work out so well. I think it was huge drop off in the level of talent that came in that staff versus the one that came in that was with Sam. And so, again, that puts the players in a bad situation because they're not getting the tools to survive. That's a tough business.
No question. And you made a great point. The one thing that every coach that I talk to with the Bengals organization, they talk about the open line of communication between players and coaches in terms of, like you said, the instantaneous adjustment coming off the field to the sideline. The coaches trust what the players see and are telling them, and the players, it's a two-way street. The trust and respect, it's a two-way street. And when you have that dynamic going and you can make those kind of changes and adjustments instantaneously, man, the sky's the limit, isn't it?
Yeah, a lot of times, younger guys come off and they CYOA. They tell them what they thought they saw or what they hope the coach sees, but the camera doesn't lie, and so you learn right away. Just tell them what really happened. I screwed it up. Wrong step, wrong footwork. Run it again. I'll get it right. Or they ran this defense. Show them what you saw, and believe in what you saw. Do what you're supposed to do, and you'll get it right next time.
So the number of offensive linemen that the Bengals had to utilize, like you said, the Bengals offensive line, they were injured at the beginning of training camp. Kappa had an abdominal injury. LC had the knee issue, and actually the knee issue is what cost him the rest of the season. But he had a back problem at the beginning of the season, training camp. So I mean, your right guard and your right tackle aren't there. Karras isn't working with the right guard, but he's working with the left guard, and he's a rookie, so he's trying to indoctrinate him. So like you said, as a result of all that, you get off to a little bit of a staggering start, but then find their rhythm, and everybody starts to get through the training camp part of it such, and they find their form a little bit, and then you lose 3 guys to injury. I mean, you're down 3 or 5 starters at a real important time down the stretch of the regular season and into the playoffs. That's a tough dynamic for anybody.
It's also the toughest part of coaching. You have to get your guys ready to play, but you can't put them in position to get hurt, because if they get hurt, you're right back to the drawing board with a new guy in there. And so that's the hard balance. You think about that, the way that season progressed. If that Kansas City playoff game is in Cincinnati, I don't think it's a contest. I think we win the game going away. So, you take those first two games that we lost and by a field goal, and you wonder what could happen had we gotten off to that little bit better start if Joe hadn't had the appendectomy. How rare is that? How does what happens if those three linemen get a few more snaps in the preseason? Maybe they're a little better prepared, and we make those extra points. If you don't lose a long snapper,
right.
all of the little things that happen. What if you have a backup long snapper hanging in a weed someplace? You did it. I did it.
Right. Yeah.
There's a caution for that. You got to make sure you got somebody capable.
Right. With the group and now if everybody, this is obviously contingent on everybody coming back 100% healthy. And I'm not sure once you're in the league for X number of years, the 100% changes every year. That 100%, it's that bar doesn't stay the same. My new 100%.
I actually walked in the building. That was healthy.
Yeah, exactly. That's my 100%. Can I get up and out of my car and walk into the building every morning? That's going to be my bar, my ceiling. What do you think about this offensive line? Do you like the group?
I like them a lot. I was really struggling with a little bit with Williams at left tackle. I know he struggled a lot. I don't know that he got better as the season went on, which we'd all hoped. I think there's room for improvement. Collins came a long way. Again, at the beginning of the season, he had a nightmare. Came a long way, and then of course he got hurt, and you saw how much he was missed in the Kansas City game because we beat Kansas City with him there. Although I think those guys that came in really did a pretty good job for not playing all season long in those roles. It's obviously easier for those guys to come off the bench and run block. When you have to pass that's when you find out a guy's weakness. Those guys were born and bred road graders. They're going to come off the line of scrimmage and knock you off the ball. I mean, I think that's what comes out of college every year. But the pass blocking is something in the NFL that's head and shoulders above any level you've ever played at, and that's where they were behind.
Yeah, I mean, you were exposed to Jim McNally, one of the great line coaches in the history of the National Football League, and his techniques. They were the repetition of his techniques over and over and over again. It was, now Frank Pollock is a Jim McNally disciple. Techniques, master the mundane. Do you like the direction that the evolution of that with Frank Pollock as an offensive line?
I think he's done a masterful job, considering what we had here for, pardon the expression, but for 23 years. I think he's done a masterful job. I don't know that you can go back and discuss offensive line play following the Jim McNally era as anything less than undercoached, And I know the guy who did it for a long time, and it's not professional coaching. These guys were brought in from great programs in college as high draft picks, and really very few of them ever materialized as players. When my group, I was just with them over the weekend at the Elder Stag. I was with Joe Walter and Bruce Reimers and guys like that. And
right.
Bruce was an 8th round pick. I was a 9th round pick. Joe was a 6th round pick.
Right.
Max Montoya was a 7th round pick. And then of course Anthony was the fluke. He was the 1st round pick. That turned out to be pretty good, I guess.
Yeah, he was all right.
Just crazy. It was crazy.
Yeah.
But there's players all the way down. You don't have to be that high if you're coached. If you're coached properly, and I just feel for the longest time, I would sit in my stadium seats at the end zone and watch the offensive line play, just wonder who was coaching these guys. It had to be giving you a nightmare as well, Dave, because you've seen some great offensive line play. You were part of some great offensive line play. You don't win ball games without offensive line play. That's at least adequate.
Right, no question. Well, and the Bengals now have a center like yourself, extremely intelligent, competitive, will finish. I mean, that was something you would finish, man. You'd finish like crazy. And Ted Karras does the same thing, and he kind of sets the tempo. I mean, there's a lot of MIPs, most important players, that you can throw into that category. I think he's way up there. He's a very, very important player. I think he's unsung. I think he could be, the unsung hero kind of guy for your football team. He's done a hell of a job at that center position in terms of quarterbacking the offensive line, bringing along the young rookie next to him in Volson. Did a great job there. Volson thinks the world of him and of Karras. So they're in good shape at the center position, aren't they?
I agree. The lines of communication all go through the center to the offensive, to the center, the quarterback to the center, to everybody else.
Yep.
And that's where it goes. What's happening on the right, I got to tell the guys on the left. What's happening on the left, I got to tell the guys on the right. Make all those calls. It all starts from there. And he's a great one, I think. But you're never going to find an offensive lineman being the most valuable guy. Most unsung, but not the most valuable.
Right. That's why I'm thinking important. Like he got a level of importance there, but like you say, you can't compete with those. Can't compete with those skill people.
Doesn't have quarterback after his name. It's not going to get that recognition.
Exactly right. So, what do you think the biggest need on this football team is? What do you think what area do you think needs some beefing up in terms of taking it even to another level?
Whew. I tell you what, the secondary took a big blow when Awuzie got hurt. They can use some insurance there. Obviously, every team changes because of who they could sign and who they can't sign.
Right.
And so, ask me that same question after all the signings are over, and I'll give you my other opinion. But for right now, where's the money going to come from to sign all these guys? Because they got to get some really good players under contract, and they got to do it soon before they disappear.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at free agent list here. I see 4 defensive backs. I see Hayden Hurst at the tight end position. I see Bates, Bell, Apple, Flowers, Samaje Perine, Drew Sample. Let's see, Max Sharping is the offensive lineman that's on this list. There aren't any other offensive linemen on the list besides Sharping. He signed a 1-year deal, kind of prove it type deal. So you think they go out in free agency or the draft and try to add to what they've got talent wise?
I think they got to do their very best to sign a lot of that talent, but then they're going to have to go shopping because they know they're not going to be able to get everybody. They're going to sign a bunch of guys to 1-year contracts like Sharping, so they don't get tied in long term with guys who are not going to be effective. And so who do you pick up, Dave? You pick up guys who have exhausted their good years someplace else and bring them in. Bill Belichick used to say, "I'd rather get rid of you 1 year too early than 1 year too late."
Right.
Do you sign that guy who he's getting rid of a year too late or a year too early? You're looking for the 2-year fixes. For years and years and years, we went and signed all those college guys with no experience to come off the bench if somebody were to be hurt, and it cost us year in and year out, right? The best thing they've done lately is hold on to some of those guys that have experience, Sharping, for instance, that have experience and step in and play. Eli Apple, not the greatest corner, but he's got a lot of experience, got a lot of savvy, and so he gets beat on one. He's not gonna hang his head, and I think that's the difference. He's got guys who are professionals. If you wanted to look at it that way, you look at the Reds signing a guy that is a professional hitter. You can watch, not know the first thing about baseball, but know that this guy's a professional hitter and this guy is just swinging at the ball, right? That's kind of the same thing happens in the NFL. You want a guy who can play the game, maybe not at the highest level, but what you're going to get, or do you want the unknown factor? That's the scary part, is that unknown factor. When a guy gets hurt, you put that unknown factor in there. Is Joe looking at that left guard instead of looking downfield? I don't know.
Right.
Hayden Hurst was a heck of an addition.
Yeah.
No doubt. They rented him.
You look at it too up front in the offensive line that we're talking about. You have a 4th-round pick at the left guard position who looks like a keeper. He's going to be around a long time. No question about it. Jackson Carman goes to left tackle, a position he played in high school and college. Man, he's got length, he's got strength, he's got power, he's got athleticism, he's got feet. Sometimes his feet are too good. At some point in time, you got to get that foot in the ground and hunker down. But I think he showed that he's got some potential. He's a second-round pick of the Bengals. And then Sharping was a second-round pick by the Houston Texans. They go out and get him off of off of the waiver wire, a free agent. I mean, it's like they had guys that could play, and they were there the whole year. It wasn't a guy they picked up off the street like 2 weeks and said, all right, you got to go in there now at the end of the season and fill in. They were there the whole year with Frank Pollock, understanding all of his techniques, going through all the repetition, all that. That's got to be super valuable, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Right from the start, if you're going to play in the upper echelon of teams, where they are right now, they got to make sure that they keep the shelf full. They can't open the cabinet door and look for an offensive lineman and not find one. They got to be able to find somebody with experience that's not going to, pardon the expression, but crap down their leg when they get on when they get in the game against Jones from Kansas City.
Right. Yeah. Game record there. Let's talk a little bit about the Super Bowl. Kansas City Chiefs, Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, two best teams in the NFL. They have the same record right now. They're both 16-3. They both have scored the exact same number of points to the point at this juncture, regular season and postseason. Their point differential is only 6 points difference between points scored and points allowed. That number is only 6 points separating the two of them. I mean, they have the same number of Pro Bowlers. They both have black quarterbacks that have an injury, a shoulder and a high ankle sprain. I mean, the commonalities are unbelievable in this football game, and it sets up as being, man, maybe a hell of a game. And sometimes those don't live up to billing. What do you think we're going to see?
I'm comparing. I think that the AFC was a much more difficult schedule for Kansas City to weave their way through. I think that the Eagles' offense is significantly more complicated to defend, and I worry about that. I think the offensive line for the Eagles is tough.
Yeah,
and so I think the matchups can be much better in the Eagles' favor than when we made our substitutions. I think we're in for a great ball game, and the outcome, who makes that one big play? Patrick Mahomes is prone to make that big play, but now here's this rookie, the young guy from the other team, making just as big a plays, but he's going to do it with his legs as well.
Right.
So I think we're in for a great ball game. I'm going to pick Kansas City
because of Mahomes.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean,
I saw Mama Kelsey on the news this morning. I know she really doesn't care who wins, but I
tell you, it's crazy. The Kansas City Chiefs lead the league in touchdowns scored, but only two behind in second place, the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, both these teams are scoring machines. Kansas City is number one in the league in touchdown passes. The Eagles number one in the league, 32 rushing touchdowns. How about that? 32 rushing touchdowns.
The way they dismantled that 49er defense was amazing. That's why you can't count them out. That offense is so difficult to defend because of all of the reads that he's making. He's handing it, then he's pulling it, then he's throwing it, then he's running it. You never know what that guy's. As long as he stays healthy, they get a legitimate chance to be good for a long time.
Yeah, and I think the interesting thing, the health of the quarterback, which quarterback's going to be able to play through his injury most efficiently on Sunday? Is it going to be the shoulder problem that Hurts has, or the high ankle sprain that Mahomes has? I mean,
the ankle sprain is going to slow Mahomes' running game down. It won't slow Hurts down. He's going to run that ball.
He will. But it won't slow Mahomes' throwing arm down. It might slow Hurts down a little bit. It's going to be crazy. I think too, the Kansas City Chiefs interior offensive line, I think is really good. Center and guards are really good. I think across the Philadelphia Eagles, man, those guys are beasts up front. They their offensive and defensive line. Cause how about the Philadelphia Eagles have 78 quarterback sacks counting. They had 70 in the regular season, 8 so far in 2 playoff games. And they're closing in on the Chicago Bears 82 sacks, the all-time record. I didn't think anybody was going to sniff that. They have 4 different players that finished the regular season in the top 14 sacks. They have 4 guys 11 sacks or more. 4 different guys 11 sacks or more, and then they had another one with 7. Now he's got 8, and the others have 12. I mean, they had 56 sacks from 5 different players during the regular season. It's like, who do you double? You can't double.
You can play a lot of coverage, man. You can play a lot of coverage where you can get that kind of pressure. I hope Mahomes is not a sitting duck. And as I said, I think that the Eagles' offense is so difficult. It's rare. It's difficult to defend because you never know where the ball's going. And as soon as you pull a safety up to stop the running game, man, he's throwing the ball over your head.
And that's why I'm thinking Lou Anarumo was rushing 3 and dropping 8 and changing coverages up. If the Eagles do a good job of changing coverages up in Mahomes and they rush 4, and there are 4 beasts that all have 12 sacks or more coming into the game, I wonder if Mahomes is going to be able to survive it, with that high ankle sprain.
Yeah, which way do you send your center? Are you going to send him to the right? As soon as you send him to the right, they bring the extra guy off the left.
Yep. And to your point, they did a masterful job against the Bengals with Chris Jones. They'd line Chris Jones up, and then the 4 down linemen in the backer, the 5-person responsibility for the O-line, and they just move the linebacker a little bit to the center's left, away from Chris Jones. Have to respect him until he drops. You don't know if he's blitzing. So now by the time you come back to help with Jones, he split you. He's quick as hell, and he'd split those 2 guys. I'm like, man, Spagnuolo, that's smart. Just offset him a little bit and thinking, oh, is he going to blitz? Is he going to work with that D tackle? And you got to respect the darn thing.
Especially with a guy with an edge like he had from missing those 2 sacks last year in the playoff game.
No doubt. How about he goes into this playoff game against the Bengals, no sacks in his career in the playoffs. No sacks. And it's like, what? Then he got 2. And you're right, he missed 2 last year. It's not like he wasn't in position for any, but he didn't accumulate any, That was crazy. Kaz, so you're picking the Chiefs in a close Super Bowl, huh?
I'm picking the Chiefs in a close one, but I would not be surprised if the Eagles came in and put a thumping on either. And I think it's a one-way score with the Eagles, or it's a nail biter and Mahomes pulls it out. That's my opinion on that.
Man, how about Frank Pollock and the Bengals offensive line getting ready for this defensive front of the Philadelphia Eagles if, in fact, the Bengals had beaten the Chiefs?
With all these injuries up front, man, you better hope some guys get healthy. You might have to keep 10 offensive linemen on your roster.
You might have to subpoena the league if you can play 8 offensive linemen instead of 5.
Maybe you should play 8-man football.
Right, exactly. Kaz, I can't thank you enough. This was great, very enjoyable. You are the man. And I'll tell you, I can't think of a more honorable profession than what you're doing, teaching kids high-level academics and coaching football. And are you still doing some wrestling coaching as well?
No, wrestling program ended here when the head coach passed away.
Oh,
yeah, he had a heart attack on our front steps, and he didn't make it. So we ended the program. But Dave, I appreciate it. I got to go get my calculus kids out of the hallway. They're standing out there staring through the window.
Go teach them some high-level calculus, Kaz. You're the best.
Thank you, brother. Take care.
Thank you. Dave Lapham here, and every day I am grateful for my experience to have played professional football. As a player, I realize self-motivation, leadership, and appreciating your teammates are key. At First Star Logistics, you can use those same attributes to create the life you want for you and your family. Build your future by working hard like I did. You'll see results both on and off the field. Call First Star Logistics today and be part of our winning team.
Opportunity knocking.